The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
It's the Best Birth Podcast, where we interview experts that elevate you as you prepare your heart and mind to have the best birth.
Each episode will interview professionals so you are prepared for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Our experts will build your confidence and empower you to trust your intuition throughout your pregnancy.
This audio is taken from videos on YouTube. Watch the entire episodes on YouTube at Birth Made Mindful. Welcome to the Best Birth Podcast. We are excited today to welcome our guest, Amanda Taulbee. She is a birth educator for the Bradley Method and has amazing things to share with us today about how we can prepare for labor and delivery.
Welcome, Amanda. Amanda is due any day with her third boy. She has been teaching the Bradley Method for 3 years. She loves decorating, so nesting has been really fun this go around. She soaks up the sun while walking, hiking, and enjoying the beautiful outdoors. And it's so fun that we share that. All of us have 3 boys, little.
Thank you so much for joining us, Amanda. We want to start out by just asking, tell us a little bit more about the Bradley Method.
Okay, so I love the Bradley Method. I was introduced to it by my aunt and a few of my cousins when I was having my first baby. And as I looked into it, I just loved how it was sort of the most well-rounded approach that I could find. It talked about relaxation, nutrition, exercise, tons of education, teaching you basically everything that's going to happen during labor, what to expect. And so I just love that. And it made me want to take the class.
So after taking the class, then you became an educator yourself.
Yeah. So actually it was during my second pregnancy, I did the certification.
And what were some of the differences in this method that drew you to become the birth educator for the Bradley Method?
I loved how prepared I was for birth. And I just felt like everyone should have that opportunity to just not feel scared and nervous to have their first baby. Or even I have lots of couples in my class too. It's maybe their second or third baby. And they just haven't loved how it's gone previously, and they just want to be ready. And so I've loved that about it. I don't even feel like it's work to me. When I have a class, it's just fun. I just love talking about it and helping people just understand oh, this is how our body works, which is what's happening.
So how is the Bradley Method effective in reducing pain or managing pain?
Yeah, so relaxation is key to the Bradley Method. So we start in week 1, basically, learning just kind of how to relax all the muscles in your body. And then eventually you transfer that to having practice contractions, and you practice in the different positions. So the key is relaxing during the contraction, relaxing all the muscles in your body so your uterus can work without the strain of stress. If you're not really prepped and you start having a really intense active labor contraction, you would probably just want to hyperventilate, but that's not helpful. So we just start from the basics of learning how to relax, and then we do some labor rehearsals and practice that way.
Absolutely love that, because I remember my very first contraction with my first baby, and it was unreal. It was unlike anything that I was expecting. And then no other contractions came along. The next morning my water broke and no contractions came along then either. But it was a very, very different feeling than I had anticipated. So having, that role play of what we can actually anticipate, that seems so crucial.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And I feel like I tell them there's not a lot you can do to know exactly what it will feel like. But and I always tell them all of this will make sense when you're in labor. Even if some of it isn't clicking now, once you're in labor and you feel that for the first time, you'll be oh, this is why I was practicing this. And then you're able to just use it and make it through labor because you were practicing.
How do women use the Bradley Method and get access to it? Is it just more learning about it and then you can use it in your pregnancy, or is there anything that's a barrier before using it?
So I feel like people usually just research different methods they want, and then they just contact an instructor. I would I don't think I could have done it without taking the class. I had a book before and I was reading about it, but taking the class was really helpful, especially like to have other couples there was really cool. And just to be able to ask somebody who's had multiple kids using the Bradley method, like what it was like. So they can just go online to the Bradley website and then find a teacher near them. So that's kind of the easiest way. And it's super easy to like sign up. You don't have to have any pre-qualifications or anything.
That's helpful. Is the Bradley method useful in other areas of life, or is it mostly birth specific?
So I would say it's honestly helped me a lot. Even in this pregnancy, I've been having these Charlie horses, and I just used the relaxation while I was having these really intense pains in my leg, and that was really helpful. Also, like the nutrition is helpful. I would say it's like specifically for pregnancy and birth and postpartum, but I feel like it's really just helped my life a lot in other ways too.
Well, we'd love to know maybe 2 or 3 examples of what a woman could do in labor to help manage those strong sensations.
Yes. So the Bradley method, so the first thing that I feel like is so important that I always teach everyone, the Bradley method teaches is called the duh face. And it looks really stupid, but the purpose is to relax like all the muscles in your like face and jaw. And so you're basically just going to like
Okay, we're going to do it with
look
you.
like that. Okay.
Is that kind of the look?
Yeah. But your eyes closed too.
Oh, eyes closed.
And your shoulders are kind of just dropping.
Oh yeah, my shoulders are definitely not dropped. I need to
Yeah,
probably
it's hard.
get ready.
Because like, yeah. So shoulders drop, jaw relaxed, eyes closed.
And during this phase, is there vocalization that's going on there, or is that mainly just kind of like the basic face?
So that is going to kind of help kickstart you to just be relaxed everywhere else. I feel like once you start with like the jaw and shoulders, you're like, oh, okay, like now I can relax this. So the first thing we start with is like a progressive muscle relaxation. And then basically by the time you have the baby, you should instantly sort of just be able to do the duh face and just relax. And this really, really helps. It seems so silly, but like once you get into that position, it's almost like when you're having a contraction, you can like notice it, but separate yourself in a way. Like you're focusing on relaxing and you're not like focused on the pain or trying to get rid of it. And so that is probably the most helpful thing. I just remember every time I had a contraction, I just go to the duh face is what I say. And then there's like a checklist for moms and dads during a contraction or during labor. It's like the mom is supposed to just be in a like super relaxed position, have like the duh look, not talking, not moving. And then the coach or dad, whoever is helping the mom, will be kind of checking like, okay, does she seem really relaxed? Like, is she tense anywhere? Does she need anything during that contraction? Like making sure she's not disturbed.
It reminds me a lot of hypnobirthing as well. Are there some crossovers to those 2 methods?
Yeah, there definitely are. I had someone actually take my class. She was having her 3rd baby and she had done hypnobirthing the first 2 times. And she was like, a lot of this sounds really similar, like during the contraction and the relaxation part, but she just wanted a little bit more of like, I think what's unique too about the Bradley method is that they also call it husband coach childbirth, or like honestly, whoever is there with you. But it really, really focuses on the lender dad partner being the coach and really having tons, like a huge part in it. And so she wanted that as well. And so more of the like education part.
Are there cons to the Bradley method or times when it may not be the best fit for someone?
No, I would say like to me, it's sort of like if you're interested, great. I'm going to like teach you everything you're going to know. But if you feel like it's not for you or you're not interested in doing a natural childbirth, then I'm not going to like try to force my opinions on you, or like everyone is so unique. I've even done some shorter courses for couples who aren't necessarily like maybe they're just planning to get an epidural, but they want to know what's going to happen to their body and postpartum and breastfeeding. And so I've done some like just shorter courses with them.
I think it's pretty amazing when you're looking at birth education. Like a lot of times it's a first time mom, but you will have people come in who have had either a bad birth experience or maybe they had a failed epidural. And so they're looking for more support, trying to feel like they have a little bit of control in their birth experience. right? There's
Exactly.
so much that we cannot control in birth, and there's so many twists and turns, I think, that will manifest themselves throughout a process. Having that confidence that I've learned what my body is going to physiologically go through. I have some tools that can help me, and now my partner is involved and like actively participating in the birth. That is so powerful.
You mentioned you have those shorter courses. How long is your course on the Bradley method?
So the Bradley Method course, it has 12 lessons, 12 weeks. I usually do it in 10 just because like I like to combine the exercises and the nutrition at the beginning. But yeah, there are 12 different topics that it goes through, and usually it's like 10 to 12 week course.
Yeah, the whole premise of our podcast, these 40 weeks that we can prepare our hearts and our minds so that we are ready for the best birth and to have a great postpartum experience as well. Can you think of anything that you would suggest for our mental preparation with the Bradley method?
So that's a really big part too. So when we talk about relaxation, we talk about like physical relaxation is kind of what I've been geared towards, but then there's also like emotional and mental. And so I've had several people take the class that just said afterwards their like kind of emotional like distress was so much lower because they kind of knew what to expect. It's just such an unknown for the first baby. And so I think just like being educated in um like pregnancy and labor and postpartum is like a huge, huge way to kind of tackle any like type of mental or emotional prep.
So a lot of what we say is geared towards first-time moms, but if there is a mom that it's their first time doing a natural birth or a VBAC, what would you have advice for as far as the Bradley method in that situation?
So I would just have them take the class. Like I've had several second time moms who it just didn't really go the way they wanted. And so they take the class, and I will like ask them. I feel like it's pretty valuable to the other students as well to hear someone else's experience on how it went for them the first time, because it's going to be different than how my experience was. And so I would just like my recommendation would be just take a class, take a childbirth class, and prep almost like it's your first, but then you're going to have like kind of a head start in some of that.
Yeah, the head start is so needed. I like to think about it just like a toolbox. And during one birth, you might need your hammer and your screwdriver. And then during your next birth, you might need your level and your measuring tape and some other things. Because looking back, it's like I loved a TENS unit during my second birth. But then during my third birth, like I did not want to have anything to do with those sensations on my back. I was like, get this thing out of here. And so just knowing that you have pretty much anything that you could turn to is necessary.
And I think that releases a lot of the shame or guilt or embarrassment about not knowing some of these tools and resources in the beginning. You can adapt and change with each birth as you learn more, as you grow. Each birth is not the same, and so each birth experience is different as well.
There's one of the classes in the Bradley method is kind of about how to navigate like unexpected situations that happen in labor, because it's not always going to go the way you have planned or you want. I had somebody who just had their baby a couple of days ago, and she was telling me how she was planning a home birth, and she was laboring 28 hours at home and then pushing for 4 hours, and eventually had to be transferred to the hospital. But anyways, I feel like we've talked a lot about that. Like it's almost like, oh, well, I'm having a home birth. Maybe I don't need a birth plan. But I suggested to them, pack a bag in case you need to go to the hospital still. Make modified birth plan if you need to go to the hospital. Like, what are we going to do just in case? And so I feel like that's really helpful too as part of the Bradley method, just being prepared for no matter what happens. And no matter what happens, your baby is here in the end. Like you prepped, and even if you end up having to have a C-section, epidural intervention, like all of these things that you did to prep are going to help you in postpartum as well.
If you're comfortable, I'd love to hear your birth experiences. What was it like with your first two as compared to how you're preparing with your third?
Yeah, so I would definitely say it was interesting because the first one, you just don't know what to expect. You learn in the class, and you're kind of prepared, but then when it actually happens, you're like, oh wow, Like, I get why all this stuff mattered. So I feel like I was like pretty good about like doing all the exercises and relaxation. And then also like, they suggest like eating dates at 36 weeks and red rice or leaf tea. I was like, okay, got to do it. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, with my next one, I need to do even more prep because I realized how that would have helped. So with the second one, I feel like I was like, okay, I get why this works and how helpful this is. And these are the things I want to focus on this time. For example, I feel like I could get really, really relaxed during a contraction, but then emotionally between contractions was just kind of hard for me. Like there's a point where I was like, how long is this going to go? Like I would just like get into my head. And so I kind of wanted to try to work on that. And then this third one, it's been like, I feel like kind of similar to the second, but also just a little bit more relaxed because I know my body has done this 2 times and that's probably my most helpful resource. And so I'm doing all the things, but it's almost like a little bit more intuitive, I guess. And then like, okay, every day I have to do this. With like one day I'm like too tired. I'm like, I'm listening to my body right now. So I feel like that's kind of how they've all been a little different.
Oh, trusting your intuition. That is one of our main mantras for any woman who is pregnant and is getting ready to have that baby.
Well, every week we share a Mom Squad secret, and I just wanted to bring that in. This week we have Allison, and she said, preserve your bandwidth as much as possible. Borrow the lazy genius's phrase to decide once. Anytime you can make a decision where you can just use that until it's no longer effective, she says, use that and that will free up some of your bandwidth.
That's incredible. We just wanted to ask if you had any other resources or advice that you would give to our listeners who are preparing for their births.
Yeah. So along with that, I kind of loved when we talked about making a decision and going for it. So I think just kind of dedicating yourself or like committing to a natural birth is one of the most important things, because if you're just like, maybe not, like it's probably not going to happen the way you want, if you're not preparing enough. And so I think that just kind of deciding and then having like a partner committed is so important and so helpful.
And I love that there's been a lot of talk, I think, recently in the birth community that like all births are natural, right? Like a C-section is natural, a vaginal delivery with forceps is natural. And then there's just like a difference if you're choosing to have an unmedicated delivery or using the medication that's available to you, using the preparation that you have done through the Bradley method or other methods to be able to manage the discomfort that comes with labor. Amanda, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We have absolutely loved getting to know the Bradley method a little bit more. And where can our listeners go to find more about you?
So they can just search the Bradley method on Google, and then it will find you'll find all the info on like what the classes are, what they entail, and then instructors near you.
And if people want to work specifically with you, where do you live and teach out of your home, correct?
Yeah, so I teach classes in my basement, and we live in Bluffdale. So I feel like it's kind of central in the middle of Salt Lake, Provo.
Thank you so much. It has been a privilege to have you on the Best Birth podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode. We hope you've been elevated and inspired by this week's expert.
Subscribe today so you never miss an episode. And please share our podcast or post on your social media so that other moms and dads-to-be can also have the best birth.
Please note that the information provided is based on the expert's insights and personal experience. It is not intended as medical guidance. Please seek the advice of your medical provider as it applies to your specific condition.